GLC 30A 18 and the Governor's March 15, 2020 order imposing strict limitations on the number of people that may gather in one place, this meeting of the Grafton School Committee is being conducted via remote participation. No in-person attendance of the members of the public will be permitted, but every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings as provided for in the order. A reminder that persons who would like to listen to this meeting while in progress may do so by visiting the Zoom link found on the Grafton Public School website. We will need to take attendance and announce all the committee members and school officials on the call, and we'll have a roll call vote for all the votes. So I'll do that right now to make sure everybody can be heard and hear me. So Laura Often, I'm here. Jennifer Conley.
Jennifer Connolly here.
Amy Marr.
Amy Marr here.
Elizabeth Spinney.
Here.
Rahul Rati.
Rahul Rati here.
All right. James Cummings.
Here.
Tracy Kalo.
Tracy Kalo here.
Anita Patel.
Here.
And Kristen Gasper.
Kristen Gasper here.
Excellent. And public comment is currently suspending, and our Q&A is open for questions only. We'll not be sharing most comments during our meeting. We know this is we have a one topic agenda tonight. So if there are relevant comments, I've asked Amy to share what she sees as appropriate. And we ask you, as we've been asking you, to continue the same decorum you would use during an in-person meeting. And we ask that you hold your questions until after the committee has had time to discuss and ask our own questions, as our questions may be many of your own. We'll allow one question and one follow-up per our meeting. So thank you. So let's get to it. We have a calendar revision. We have a lot of people interested in this topic, so thank you for attending. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Cummings. Thank you.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, great. All right, so at the last school committee meeting, I spoke to all of you about the need for additional planning and collaboration time for staff. And I told you that I was going to work on the issue and bring back a recommendation for your consideration. So here we are tonight. This slide is from the last time we met. As you know, we're asking staff to create, collaborate, and teach in numerous different models with limited planning time, essentially asking people to do something truly unprecedented and incredibly complex. There's no doubt in my mind that there's a strong connection between that planning and collaboration time and our program quality. So since we last met, I've been focused on utilizing additional early release days to get to this end. That's been my focus for the past, whatever it's been, couple weeks. In terms of considerations, there's a lot of things that have to be taken into consideration when you're looking at a calendar, especially one that's already fairly complex. We had to look at time on learning requirements and really consider that. Look at the related service schedules. As you can imagine, with special education, any kind of our therapies that are provided, those schedules are always really challenging, but especially this year, they're already even more challenging because the small groups tend to have to be even smaller. We're doing a lot of individualized work, which makes scheduling harder because you have to still meet the needs of all the students and you can't group as effectively. We have teachers, especially in those areas, jumping between in-person and remote. That's not just a seamless walk down the hallway and you're with different kids. That takes some time. So that was a real challenge and a worry. Lunches, as I talked about at the last time we met, we've got 15 to 20% of our students who have families who are struggling financially, and many of those students are dependent on us for lunches during the week. So that was a concern. And then, of course, childcare is a concern. It's always a concern. As a father of four, I certainly understand that reduced time at school in any iteration increases that burden on parents. And I definitely wouldn't be recommending additional days if I didn't believe it was absolutely essential for us. So here's the basic recommendation, that we would take the existing early release days that we have every year. We usually have between 6 and 8 over the course of the year. Those are highlighted in yellow. And then almost every Friday throughout the year, we would have an early release day, like your typical early release day. Throughout the year. The exceptions are really just in November, and that's because the month, that the old adage, no school November, is based on the fact that it's just by its very nature a very choppy month in terms of scheduling. So we would keep or put into the schedule November 20th day, but that would be the one Friday in that month out of 3 weeks, because you take out the Friday for Thanksgiving. So aside from that, it would be essentially every Friday, starting on October 9th was already scheduled, but the first new day would be the 23rd, and that would run through June 11th. And then going back to those considerations, the time on learning, the reason that most districts have, let's say, 6 or 7 half days a year, that's not just magic. The way it works with your typical 6+ hour school day, say that's 6.5 hours every day, you're going in a normal year for 180 days. With time on learning requirements, districts can still meet those requirements and afford to have 6 to 8 days that are half days. We will be, with this recommendation, we will be under the required time on learning, the number of hours per secondary and per elementary schooling. For what it's worth, I think we're going to be in fantastic company with every district that I know of is at the very least having a schedule that includes a weekly half day throughout the year for the very same reasons that I'm proposing it now. We've already set up with Whitson's, no matter what, if the school committee decides to just stick with the 7 days that we have, any way you slice it, where you're going to have a to-go lunch program on all early release days. And this will basically be bagged lunches, complete lunches. We'd have students and families sign up for the program and simply grab the lunches as they're leaving at the end of that day, on that early release day. There are a few other districts that are doing this, and it's, according to them, gone exceedingly well. So I love that idea no matter what. And then this will be very much in something that's going to take some time to develop, but we met today and yesterday with our director of special education and assistant director to talk about different ways that we can make the schedules work for the related services in special education. And we're very confident that we can do that. And with that, I can take any questions. And I did put a slide at the very end just to illustrate with the typical format. Those Fridays, I put all the early release days in green so that you can obviously just see the pattern. It's pretty self-evident, with that exception being in November. So I can take any questions you may have.
Okay, I have a couple questions. So the time on learning, has DESE made any changes to that with the 170-hour reduction? I mean, with 170 days?
No, well, I mean, it's automatically prorated. I think that would be 94%. So when I did the numbers, I took out those 10 days. So I prorated it, and I fully believe that's the expectation from DESE.
And then what are we thinking on thoughts if it doesn't change? Or
I mean, I guess worst case scenario, and again, this would go to every district that I know of. I don't know of an exception, although somewhere one probably exists. If we were essentially cited by DESE, and I mean, they've talked to countless districts. They have a team of people that looks at the different schedules. Obviously, there's not a single schedule in the 300 plus districts in the state of Massachusetts that's your normal schedule. So they have a team that's looked at the plans, looked at schedules. They would connect. So I don't see this as a super punitive thing. If they did come in, I'd be contacted. I'd go through the schedule. with them. If Desi wanted us or insisted that I make any changes, it would most likely, almost definitely be sending work home with students when they, on those half days. That obviously would go against what we're trying to get to. We're trying to provide 3 hours of planning and collaboration. Having teachers spend additional planning and collaboration time to create work for students to do, and then to assess that work when it's returned on that Friday afternoon. That certainly works against what the end that we're trying to get to. I'd be very surprised if that happened, but that would be the fallback plan.
No, I appreciate you doing this. I know, speaking as a teacher, how much time I need just to, there's so much going on, there's so much moving parts. So I'm sure it's definitely something that the teachers need. So thank you for accommodating.
My pleasure. They've been working unbelievably hard, but it really is, I mean, again, I certainly hope we never have to deal with a pandemic again, but if we did do it again, this is one of those areas that myself and a lot of leaders would look at. Like, you just look at everything differently, and that time factor and the need for planning and collaboration time, it's sky high, as you said.
Any other questions from the committee? Amy?
Yeah, hi. I really like this proposal. I think it's a great plan. And I think what I like about it is that it gives parents, families time to plan, to have the kids home on Fridays, not every Friday, but it's going to be a lot of Fridays. How do the teachers feel about doing the planning on Fridays? Are they enthusiastic about it? Do they want to do it this way?
I haven't put out like a survey or anything, so I'm giving you just a small sample. I think the teachers, by and large, are going to be very, very happy to have that planning time. That I can say without doubt. We went with Fridays simply really because we had the early release days that were already built into the schedule were on Fridays. So it seemed like a natural fit. There's always pros and cons to, I guess, any day. But I think they'll be, I think, very appreciative. And while Friday afternoons are hard, no matter what you're doing, be it teaching, planning, collaborating, what have you, it does seem like it might be a good timing in that we can kind of finish up the week and then spend some time, obviously, that Friday afternoon gearing up for the week to come. In most cases, the planning would be done for that next 5 days, and then do it again that next Friday. So I think it's going to work out well, and I think the teachers are going to be appreciative.
Liz?
Yeah, I like what you said about pointing out that the more collaboration time that the teachers have, the better quality education that our students will be receiving. And personally, I'm more concerned with quality than quantity. So I think this is going to help get us there. And honestly, our teachers aren't asking for more rest time or vacation time. They're asking for more time to work on planning. And I honestly, I can't imagine telling them that we wouldn't do this when they're asking for something that will help them do their jobs better. So my only question was, I recognize that this is an added challenge for some parents, figuring out what to do with the kids. And have we spoken yet with some of the after school providers to see if they're able to adjust those schedules?
Not to the degree that I could really speak to it. We gave a couple, just in conversation, a heads up that it may happen. Obviously, I didn't want to jump the gun. So what we will do is tonight or tomorrow, make sure, well, obviously, if it's approved, we would reach out to all parents tonight. And obviously, with that, connect with daycare providers to let them know of what's coming up in a few weeks.
Rahul?
Jay, I have a quick question about the MCAS. In last night news, I heard that MCAS would be held in spring. So do you think the calendar would be changed again, or would that be accommodated within this?
No, that would be the schedule wouldn't be affected.
Okay.
Yep.
So it would be the same thing. Okay. I have one more very small concern. Like when we look at November,
Yeah,
it's like the Monday is cohort A, and rest of the week is cohort B. I just, I mean, it might be confusing for the parents. Like they send their kids the whole week in October last week, and then Monday they have to send their kid again. I know it has to do with number of days and everything, but I'm not sure if something can be done about it. But just thought like it might confuse parents, like soon after 1 week with the school, and then Monday they have to send their kids again.
right. Yeah, it was all about balancing. November's a challenge for many different reasons. So we'll take a look at that, and if we simply just have to do it, we're already counting on knowing that we'd have to communicate this
Right.
kind of countless times, and even then, we're fully aware that of no fault of any parents, everybody's doing a million things. They're on Thursday morning going to be thinking their kid's going. Kind of get a headache even just looking at it, but I'll take a look at it in the next couple of days, and if we need to modify, we will.
Yeah, I've had that question, probably the most question about that week people keep asking, but I think if maybe we just circle it on the calendar and write this is not an error. I mean, most people just think it's an error, and just be very clear about it might be helpful.
Okay. So either way, we'll make sure we communicate that, a couple weeks in advance, a bunch of times.
Yeah, I like that question because I actually know the answer to it every time. So makes me happy. Any other questions from the committee? You asked all the questions I was going to ask, but I did want to just reiterate that when we started this over the summer, everything was always on our best thinking. I think we've been pretty open that nothing has ever been in stone, and I know how hard it is to have change. I'm not a person that likes change. This year, it's very uncomfortable for all of us. It makes me nervous when things change mid, but we're only in this for 2 weeks, and I applaud the efforts of us, not us, of you, to quickly pivot on how to help. And like I said last week, and then 2 weeks before that, when teachers are having struggles, we want to hear them early so we can fix them early. And I appreciate the community's flexibility. I know this is a challenge, and having one more change might just be the straw that breaks the camel's back. So I appreciate it. But exactly what Liz said, I think that it's quality over quantity, and I would much rather have the teachers feeling comfortable and ready to teach rather than so stressed out. Not that they are, but that they can't, that the education isn't the best as we want it to be. And I think this year is just a great experiment, and we're going to be flexible, and I think it's going to be okay in the long run. So that's my spiel. Amy, I see there's a bunch of questions.
I want to reiterate, because I think we haven't had this much participation in a while. If you're listed as anonymous attendee, you're not going to be part of the public record, so we can't ask your question. We've got 3 or 4 of them in there, and I don't know who's who. So if you asked a question as anonymous attendee and I asked you to provide your name, please submit your question again. So after you change your name, and then we'll know who you are.
Thanks.
So can I start? These are good questions. So Cheryl Nelson wants to know if there was any thought to using a delayed opening rather than an early release, Jay.
Yes.
So I think the thinking behind, if you don't mind me jumping in, Jay.
No, I am trying to think of what.
I remember the conversation. So, and Kristen, you can jump in. it was kind of the thought on learning happens for kids almost better in the morning than rather in the afternoon. So while that might be ideal for teachers, then kids would come in and the day would be a little bit more lost. And we were really thinking that the best learning happens in the morning. Am I remembering that correctly, Kristen?
You are. We definitely talked about the early morning being the time for learning.
Okay.
We also talked about what you guys had mentioned just a minute ago about just the amount of change and how change is hard. And we historically have done early release. And then I think people are used to that in terms of daycare, in terms of the older kids being home, et cetera. So we definitely talked about trying to limit the change while we're instituting changes.
We have a request from Jen Wall to put the calendar modification back on screen. So I'll go ahead and just.
That's easy.
I know, that's an easy one. Tim Roderick asks, how will you measure the effectiveness of this plan?
Question. It would definitely, I don't see how it would be quantitative. It would have to be qualitative and based off of teacher and staff feedback. I mean, we haven't had to send out surveys. We're getting feedback, even if we didn't ask for feedback. Obviously, every district's getting a ton of feedback back. As every day goes on and most things are improving steadily, we're able to get a sense of what's working, what's not working, and then trying to act accordingly. Like we're working on some schedules. We're obviously changing the calendar or proposing a change to the calendar. That's all based on feedback. So I think it is that teacher and staff feedback, which we get on a daily basis.
And how about we can put it on a future agenda item maybe in February when we've had January, because there's more in January, and we can check in to see how it's working.
Oh, sure. And I don't for one second think this definitely helps us.
Yeah.
But I want to be clear that, again, I probably sound like a broken record, but we're doing something that's unprecedented with so many variables, so many moving parts, people doing things they haven't had to do before. And that goes for everybody. I mean, we have elementary kids at home trying to get through remote learning with a grandparent who isn't all that familiar with whatever the device is. Everybody's trying their best, but it's incredibly hard. And it's even maybe the morning for that student goes great. In the afternoon, for whatever reason, grandma leaves and grandpa's there and grandpa can't help, and you've got a whole new set of challenges in that same exact day. So we've got that replicated hundreds and hundreds of times across the district. I don't think for a second 1/2 day a week is the silver bullet that all the problems disappear. That's just going to be one piece, and I think it's an important piece, a very important piece. But at the same time that we're making this change, every day we're making changes within our programming, our curriculum, how we're doing business. So I think it's all those changes need to result in steady improvements. And we're all going to be able to get a sense of that through our own personal experiences and the experiences of others who we talk to. Eventually, we'll definitely do surveys eventually. But so I just want to be clear. It's not just we're doing this one thing and let's step back and hope it changes everything and everything's glorious. I haven't talked to anybody from any district in the state of Massachusetts that is saying, wow, this is just a blast. Everything's awesome with whatever they're doing. I've never heard anything close to that. That's what we're aspiring to, but it's going to take a lot of work, and it's going to take more than one calendar change, I can assure you.
Question from Melissa Graves. This change applies to all schools and all cohorts, including RLA. Is that correct?
That is correct. And a big part of this is having the RLA teachers just for example, right now they might get 30 minutes every few days to be able to connect with the rest of the team who is teaching in person, hybrid, remote, what have you. This provides for definitive, high quality time. It's fairly lengthy on a regular basis with those teams that we don't have now. So the answer is yes.
Can you talk a little bit about why the teachers need more planning time over normal years? That's from Mary Rio.
Yeah. In a normal year, we need a lot of planning time to make everything work effectively. This year is 10 times, maybe more, probably more complex than we've ever dealt with in the past. Just talking about collaboration and coordination, the last question went to, we have RLA, so Remote Learning Academy. We have programs for kids who are attending every day. We've got remote in-person students, and we have remote hybrid students. We have all of that taught by teachers, all at the same time with 4 different models. That's, if you asked me a year ago, I would have said it wasn't even doable. But we're doing it. But with that, we're also doing all of that. We've actually reduced the amount of planning time and prep time within the regular day. So we've got teachers stretched and doing even more than the great deal that they've historically done, at the same time that we're asking them to do more and do things very differently. That requires not only planning, and teachers are planning far above and beyond this 3 hours once a week, I can assure you. Every night they are working in terms of planning and trying to collaborate. Collaborating is obviously harder to do without some set time for that. So that's what this provides this year. And while I would argue it's always needed, it is critical this year, more critical than it ever has been, and I'm guessing than it ever will be.
Some of these I think are basically, I'm going to kind of sum it up. We have a few parents that are concerned about things that happen in their child's school on Fridays and how will that be impacted by the change. And I think the answer there is that the teachers will make the adjustments that they need. If tests are usually Fridays, they're not meeting Friday, they'll do the tests on Thursdays. If it's, work that's due at the end of the day Friday, the teachers will make the adjustment.
That's perfect.
And report cards are not changing, correct?
Correct. I don't.
Okay.
So I need to go and look at it. We did modify. We modified because of the delay in the start. But aside from that, it wouldn't be impacted. No.
And those appear on the back page of the calendar, not this
That's
page.
right.
So that gets
Correct.
rid of
Yeah,
that
yeah.
one.
And I'll double check that. But if this is approved, I will send out all of that. I would send to parents tonight, and then tomorrow morning put it up on the website.
And there are a lot of questions that aren't about the calendar specifically, although here's one. What about preschool students that are full day or students that arrive in the afternoon?
Good question. We're as of now, we are planning to not change. That's a great question. I meant to mention it. I apologize. It's probably worried a lot of people. The preschool schedule would not change. We would still have Mondays off and have the schedule as it typically is. So no impact.
Okay.
What about the kids who are just going in the afternoon, though? They just wouldn't go on Fridays, right?
No, it wouldn't. It's not going to impact preschool at all.
They'll go on
Whatever
Fridays.
you normally did, you would do. And preschool's obviously very unique. They have the Monday no school. So we are going to make sure to provide that 3+ hours of collaboration time for all preschool staff on the Monday, since we already have it.
Okay.
There are a couple of questions about how the time will be used. Will it be used for technology training? Will there be meetings, or will teachers basically be working together and planning?
So the latter, we want first and foremost it to be focused on teacher planning and collaboration. We will most likely offer, Tracy always on a typical early release day, there may be some choice, but we offer different programs. We would still offer different programs that are optional. So say on a particular Friday, just as an example, a teacher, a 7th grade social studies, that week, everything just fell into place and they collaborated well, everybody's in great shape, but that individual is doing some kind of, remote instruction and wishes that he or she knew more about fill in the blank with whatever. And if we have a training about that, they would be able to hop in and join that training because of their own needs. So it's going to be first and foremost about teacher planning and collaboration, but we want to have some things available to teachers if they want them for their own self-development.
Okay. There's a question about special education services, fitting them into the week with the in-person week and the remote weeks. What's the impact going to be with less time in school for the special education students? I think that depends on the individual.
Everybody, in the bottom line, everybody's going to get what they would have received even with the additional 3 hours. Is it going to crunch schedules and make it even more challenging? Absolutely. Again, we went through that in pretty good depth the last 2 days, and we're very comfortable with that happening.
There's a request to use different colors
Oh boy.
for the cohort A/B half days, so we are sure whether our kid goes in for that half day or is remote. I would say that at that point I would use the text version of the calendar, right?
Yeah, I'd have to think about how we would do that, but yeah, we'll make it very. I didn't highlight it here.
Right.
On the actual front page of this is a listing to the right hand side that spells out every early release day.
Yep.
Maybe you could bold hybrid A and italicize hybrid B.
Okay.
Just Amy, is there anything else
There's
critical?
nothing else pertaining to the calendar specifically. There are other questions, but they're not about the calendar. Oh, here's one. Is parent conference a no school day?
Yes.
Yes.
Correct.
And they'll be remote. How about if you have questions that we can help, you are welcome to email them to me, often L at the Grafton URL, and we will get answers to you if they're not pertaining to the calendar tonight.
Yeah.
Is that helpful, Amy, or
Yes.
you can,
Yes.
or we can take a look and post on.
It's up to you. You want to pop in and take a look? I just know that we were trying to keep the Q&A to
Yeah.
questions about the calendar. So
Oh yeah, no, I'm seeing a lot. Yeah, I think we'll just send these over. To Jay. We can maybe work on a quick Q&A because some of these don't really pertain. If we were in a regular meeting, we wouldn't be taking these.
Yeah.
But they're good questions, and I know people have a lot of questions about what's going to happen. And I can assure you, if we knew, we would tell you. If we knew we were going to be able to go back full time, nobody's sitting on information. This has a lot to.
That's one of the reasons why we're doing this special meeting, to do the calendar change early and not waiting until our regular meeting next week, because we're trying to get information out to parents as far in advance as we can. And the situation is still evolving rapidly. So.
Right. Okay, great. Well, then I will, does this committee have any other questions about the calendar? No? Oh, I think I have you all on the same little screen. That's so nice. I'll take a motion.
I make a motion to accept the new hybrid model calendar revision.
Second.
All right, motion made and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, this will be a roll call vote. Jennifer Conley,
Jennifer Connolly, aye.
Amy Marr,
Amy Marr, aye.
Rahul Rati,
Rahul Rati, aye.
Elizabeth Spinney. Ooh,
Aye.
oh, aye, you were frozen for a minute. Laura Often, aye. Motion carries 5-0. All right, thank you. So I did do a quick member report just because, Liz, I know you had a meeting this week, and Amy, I know you had a kind of a big meeting this week. So you guys want to, you don't have to, but if you have an update and you want to share.
Sure, I can start. So the town administrator screening committee met Monday night to basically introduce all of the members to each other and to get to know the Community Paradigm Associates, which is the consulting firm that will be working with us to help identify potential TA candidates. We will be, for those of you who don't know our charge, we will be acquiring or receiving resumes and selecting 3 to 5 candidates that we'll be recommending to the select board. But we have 150 days to do that. So sometime in February or before then, we'll be recommending those candidates to the select board. So, so we met on Monday, went really well. We will be issuing a Google form soon that will request public input into what they are looking to see and what they would like to see in a potential new TA in the town. So that will be coming out soon. I'll be preparing that with the consultant, Bernie Lynch. And just so everyone knows, a lot of the meetings will be an executive session because we're talking about people's resumes and we're sharing personal information. So you may not see much from us for a while, but don't worry, we're still working hard behind the scenes to select a great next TA for Grafton.
Thank you. And did you mention that you were vice chair of the committee?
Oh, yes, I was right. So school committee has good representation.
Well, we knew we would.
We were, I was, Mark Haddad is the chair and I was elected vice chair, so.
Congrats.
Thanks.
And thank you for the update, Liz. Amy, did you?
Yeah, so the CIPC met again last week. We met twice, actually, once with the Community Preservation Committee. Talk about that bylaw change that is on the warrant for town meeting. So it's been approved. The select board signed the warrant last night. So when we go to town meeting in October, we'll be voting on that. And that's just to kind of further define what CIPC does. And as a reminder, it's capital planning, trying to get a firm grasp on how we plan as a town. And that includes the schools, obviously. So that was the sum of my committee work for the last week. And I have a meeting tonight with FinCom to talk about the very same thing. So.
All right. Well, we'll wrap up soon so you can get there. Anybody else have a member report? All right. I did not receive any official correspondence. We do not need to go into executive session. So I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
All right. Any further discussion? Before we go, I do want to thank everyone for tuning in. It's so nice to have so many people come again. We're often a delightful bunch and we talk about a lot of important things. So thank you for coming. If you did have a question that we didn't answer, you don't need to email me. I copied them into a Word document and we'll work with Jay to get some of the answers for you. So I apologize that we didn't do it live, but we'll get you the answers. And we'll post them on our site and on our Facebook page. So I'll take a vote to adjourn. Jen Conley?
Jen Connolly, aye.
Amy Marr?
Amy Marr, aye.
Liz Spinney?
Aye.
Rahul Rati?
Rahul Rati, aye.
And Laura Often, aye. All right. Well, thank you, everybody. Thanks for your patience and flexibility. Good night.